Hello friends, the new GM here. In this video I'm going to show you how to play Daggerheart for free. Maybe the core set is out of stock, maybe you don't have 60 bucks right now. Whatever the case may be, you can play all of Daggerheart for free. We're not talking about some stripped down basic rules version like Dungeons & Dragons has, where a bunch of subclasses and spells have been held back. This is all of Daggerheart, all the cards for free, and it doesn't even involve any piracy. So let's get into it. Roll the intro. I'm just kidding, I don't have an intro. Everything we want is on Daggerheart.com. We're going to start with what is called the System Reference Document, or SRD. So first we're going to go to Community, System Reference Document, and scroll down to the big Download the Daggerheart SRD button down here. The SRD is a streamlined version of the rules of the game put out by Darrington Press themselves, but it is missing some of the extra detail of the core rulebook. The core rulebook contains more environments, more campaign frames, more gameplay examples, and of course, a bunch of beautiful artwork. The SRD, however, is all of the Daggerheart rules rolled into one place. If you want to learn to play, maybe as a GM or even as the player, this is a great place to start. It can also be used for really fast reference while playing. Personally, what I've done is download the PDF and add it to the Books app on my phone. So the SRD document starts right off with an introduction, which is really just a one-pager on what is Daggerheart and, understanding kind of what's in this document, which, like I said, is all of the rules, right? So if we jump to character creation next, it walks through a step-by-step process for each of the things that you go through for creating a character, such as picking classes and picking character traits and recording all the different background information of your character. The main area we want to talk about right off the bat here is the core material. At the core of Daggerheart, the heart of it all are domains. There are 9 domains within Daggerheart, and every class is made up of a combination of 2 domains, as you can see in the table in the bottom right. So one way to approach character creation would be to read over the domains themselves and see which ones sound cool to you, and then look at the class table below and kind of go from there. Right off the bat, though, you'll see this starts talking about domain cards. And next, we're going to talk about class and subclass cards. Where do we get all these cards? Don't worry about that. We'll get there. So we're going to scroll down here to the start of the classes section. They're organized by class and subclass in the document. Each class defines your starting evasion and hit points, starting items, class features, and all your special class hope feature. Then each class has 2 subclasses. There are 9 classes in the Daggerheart core materials: Bard, Druid, Guardian, Ranger, Rogue, Seraph, kind of like your cleric, Sorcerer, Warrior, and Wizard. If we look at the Bard, which is the alphabetically superior class, we can see 2 subclasses here. The Troubadour and the Wordsmith subclasses have their own features, and those will get improved through the level up mechanics, but we're not going to go too far into the actual rules into this video. Next, we're going to talk about ancestries. Ancestries are the people that inhabit the game world, and your game may or may not include all of these. The GM will define what ancestries are available in their world, so check with yours. Ancestries include everything from your standard humans to big old turtle folk called Galapa. Each ancestry grants you 2 ancestry features to include during character creation. The core rule set includes 18 ancestries, ranging from Clank all the way down to the Simia, which are like big gorilla-type people. If we take a look at the alphabetically superior Clank ancestry, we can see that they are sentient mechanical beings, which might mean robots or androids in your world, or some animatronic statues in another. Then finally, in the core materials, we have communities. Communities are the background for your character. Where did they come from? How were they raised? Did they live in the mountains, such as the Ridgeborn? Or were they born to a life of crime, like the Slyborn? Each community grants 1 community feature that generally gives you an advantage in certain scenarios. Everything else you need to know about the nitty-gritty of how to actually play Daggerheart is here in the core mechanics. Everything you need to know about combat, downtime, leveling up, and equipment is here. For our GM friends, the running and adventure section has you covered. It's a great explanation of the core GM mechanics, like using your fear and making GM moves. There's even a sample campaign frame called the Wither Wild, but we're not going to dive into that in this video. So as you can see, the Daggerheart SRD has everything you need to understand the rules and how to play. It's a fantastic resource, and I'm super happy the Darrington Press folks did not hold anything back. So if you want to make third-party content or run some actual plays or just have fun with your family and friends, it's all there for you in the SRD. So we have our rules down. We know where to get those. And I know you're going to read every damn page of that document like I did, right? The next several things that we're going to talk about are under resources download. So remember that the SRD is under community, but everything else we're going to talk about is under resources and downloads. Here we'll find the character sheets and guides download. The and guides part is another great example of Darrington Press making this game as approachable as possible. You might notice right off the bat that this isn't a generic character sheet. This one is specifically for our alphabetically superior bard. I'm not going to do a full explainer on the character sheet here, but we'll hit the highlights. So we have our traits up here, right, which is our ability scores, if you will. We have our evasion and armor over here. We have thresholds, hit points, and stress. All of the classes have these mechanics. And all of this is actually just generic, really, for the character sheet. However, we can see that the class feature for the bard, actually, I should probably zoom these in, huh? The class feature for the bard is documented here for us, right? So the rally for the bard class is defined here. This is your hope feature. This is where you spend 3 hope to activate your class feature. On the next page, we have all the other details we need for character creation, including trait recommendations, gear recommendations, a bunch of other things to use for building out the character background, and then finally our leveling up worksheet. Let's take a look at a slightly more complicated class like the Druid, where they have a beast form as an ability. Again, we can see that our class feature is already printed in for us down here, but we get a whole extra page here for the Druid on their various beast form options. Another example of Darrington Press being as helpful as possible is the Ranger character sheet. The Ranger gets an animal companion, which is almost its own character sheet. If we scroll down, you'll see this second page that we can print out and place under the edge of our main character sheet. Then you have everything you need in front of you at the table. But what if you're homebrewing a class or just want a generic character sheet? Well, the very last page of the document is a plain old generic character sheet that doesn't have any of the class features or anything like that filled in for you. So you can start there from this blank page. So again, you might be thinking, GM, I know Daggerheart uses a bunch of cards. Where do I get the cards? I'm sure they didn't give those to me for free, but hell yeah, they did. They're here under resources, downloads again. And if we scroll down to our print and play cards, zoom those in so everybody can see. We have 30 pages of cards here. And I know I keep repeating this, but these are all the cards you would get with the core set. What's missing is the artwork. And trust me, it's pretty fantastic artwork. But if you buy the core set, it comes with beautiful cards and several duplicates so folks can share them at the table if needed. Or if you need extras, you could print these. All of the domain abilities and spells and subclasses and ancestries and communities are here in the print and play document. Right at the top here, we have the domains. Now, honestly, some feedback for the Darrington Press folks, because I know they'll totally see this video. It would have been great to actually print the domain names on these cards. Otherwise, you just have to know what the icons means or what the icons are. The core set cards don't have the names on them either. Only the icons, like the ones here. So you have to play a little matching game and learn all the icons. The axe here is blade. I only know this because I looked it up while writing the script. And you might think, well, duh, that's a blade. Well, the next one here, whoops, nope, this one. The next one here has 2 blades. Well, this is bone. Anyway, the names would have been super helpful. Moving on. So we can see that all of the abilities and spells for all of the domains are here. They're sorted by domain level. You add domain cards according to your level, but that's all in the SRD. If we jump down past the domain cards, we'll find our subclasses. Here we have our subclass foundation cards followed by their specialization and mastery leveled up versions. These last 3 pages are all about the communities and ancestry. So here, all of the cards you need. You don't even really need to print these if you don't want to. You can just write it all into your character sheet, or you could print these out and not cut them out and just use them as reference, whatever works. With everything we've covered so far, you have everything you need to start playing all of Daggerheart today. But wait, there's more. we're going to dip into resources and downloads one more time and take a look at the additional sheets section. So we go under resources and downloads, we click into additional sheets. The additional sheets document is packed full of several super helpful guides. So we have a GM guide here, which lays out all of the things that you really need to know as a GM. Again, example GM moves, a difficulty table here, as well as how hope and fear can be used, some guidance on handling critical success versus failure with fear. So a lot of really helpful things here for being the GM. On the next page, we have a handy guide for character creation, which really just walks through the steps. So this is super great to just kind of print out and hand out at the table in sort of a session 0. Even down here, we have some name ideas. Next is a very helpful player guide. They just call it play guide, but really this is a player guide. This talks about how to use your abilities, how the duality dice work, how to refer to it as 21 with fear or 10 with hope, as well as a couple of other hints for how to deal with, damage rolls and reaction rolls, how to use your armor, all of those things. And then at the bottom here, there's even a little hint in here that talks about tiers, which will come up during play, whether or not you're tier 2 or tier 1. Some of the cards will mention things like that. So that's just the guide there on what tiers mean. And then, as I mentioned, we have all of the actions that you can take during a short or long rest. And then my favorite part of this document. This is what they call their character sheet sidecar. The sidecar, you basically print this out, and then you lay it underneath your character sheet, much like the Ranger one we mentioned earlier. So you can put this under one side of your character sheet, and it points to all the specific areas that it points to each of the sections of the document and explains them on the character sheet, which is very cool. All right, the last thing I want to show you on Daggerheart.com is what's called the Void. The Void is where they have all their beta stuff. This is future things that they're testing out. Let's say, for example, you really like playing a monk in Dungeons & Dragons, or you want a gnome ancestry. Those things don't exist in the Daggerheart core rules today, but we can find them in the Void. So if we scroll down to the first thing we have here is our transformation cards. Transformations are pretty slick. These are where you can have some obviously fun stuff like vampires, werewolves. There's even a few more interesting things like being a zombie, a ghost, or a shapeshifter. Those are all in the transformation cards. Here we have the Witch class, which also sneaks in the new Dread Domain. It's weird to me they didn't introduce the Dread Domain as like its own thing here in the Void before we run into it later. But anyway, the Dread Domain is essentially spooky stuff, like spectral mist and jump scare. Next up is the Assassin class, which is pretty much what it says on the tin. This combines the Midnight and Blade domains to create a class specifically about tracking down a specific enemy, getting in, getting it done, and getting out. Next, we have our ancestries and communities. You want to know? Here's your gnome. This is where new ancestries like Gnome and the Aetheris, think Azamar from D&D, as well as some new communities like Duneborn, if you want to build a Paul Atreides type character. And then we have our new Warlock class, which is very much like its D&D counterpart, with an otherworldly patron providing you unnatural powers. The Warlock class also builds on the new Dread Domain we talked about in the Witch class. And finally, down here at the bottom, we have our Brawler, or our Monk, with its Juggernaut and Martial Artist subclasses. I really didn't mention the subclasses on Warlock and Witch, but like all classes in Daggerheart, each of the Void classes has 2 subclasses. As you can see, the Void has a ton of fun things in it that you can mix into your game as you see fit. All right, it's time to wrap this up. So as I said, everything you need to play Daggerheart is right here on Daggerheart.com. You've got the SRD, the System Reference Document, the core rules under Community System Reference Document. You've got a ton of helpful resources under Resources, Downloads. And really, that covers everything you need to learn about playing Daggerheart. I'll have links in the description below, but obviously it's all just coming from Daggerheart.com. But at the end of the day, if you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe. I'm just getting started with this channel. I'll be posting more content about the things I learn as I go along on my GM journey. So join me, won't you? But that's all I have. So thank you for your time and take care.